Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 228. I am Peter, and joining me, unfortunately on his own, is Connor.
Yep, still here. Still not getting rid of me.
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together every week and we talk about the DC comic books we read that came out in the week prior, and occasionally some other random ones, but that's other context. Coming up on this week's show, we have Justice League 57, which is part of Death Metal, and is notably set technically before issue 5 of Death Metal, which is why that's the second book on the list. We got Batman 103, Aquaman 65, Catwoman 27, and Rorschach number 2. So those are the books we'll be talking about this week. There's a couple of bits of news as well to get into, a couple of which are minor interesting.
Oh really? I hadn't noticed them.
Things to get into. And one kind of bigger thing that's more to do with the movies than his comics, but worth mentioning, I think, anyway. So yeah, we'll pretty much get into it fairly quickly, I think. Basically, because we both have new video game consoles that we want to get back to as quickly as humanly possible.
That's pretty much the truth of it, yeah.
Which actually,
basically,
it's a complete lie in my case anyway, because I actually have a stream to do tonight with Tim called Streams After Midnight, which by the time you're hearing this, it's old news and it'll have happened already. But
you'll have time between this and that.
No, I won't. I'm napping between this and that.
All right, well, that's on you. That's valuable video game time if you had chosen to use it for that.
Chosen to use it for that. Look, this is just the way things have worked out. Sometimes things pan out this way, and I will be napping between this.
If it makes you feel any better, I can't actually play the game that I kind of want to play till anymore tonight either. So you know.
Why?
Oh, because the game I want to carry on playing is Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but I'm only playing that while Paige is there and watching, because she wants to watch all the story and stuff, and yeah, she'll be off watching I'm a Celeb by the time we're done with this, so that means no more of that till tomorrow for me. That
story was full of so many just terrible life choices, too many to list. But let's get into the DC news of the week, shall we? I'll start with the comic book stuff. We'll save the movie thing till last. So first things first, we've heard of a new miniseries we're going to get based on the new Future State Wonder Woman Yara Flor, who is going to be referred to as Wonder Girl in this miniseries, which will be after Future State. So this is presumably set in the whatever the main present day DCU is going to be at that time.
Probably, although I think there's an outside chance that they continue doing minis set in the Future State world in the future.
This Newsarama article seems to agree with me, although it doesn't say any reason why. It just...
Like I said, I've not read this, I've not seen this news story, and I think it's a fair assumption. That's why I said there's an outside possibility. Not that I think it's going to be that necessarily.
I imagine if they think this character is a hit already, if they're feeling confident about this character being continued and being an inclusion going forward, that them establishing whatever the the mainline like origin story is for like pretty quickly after the sounds of it. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be solicited in March. It just because this is not like an official solicit yet. This is just they're talking about it. They're talking about this happening sometime after Future State.
I'm sure we'll hear about it in the next few months, though.
So that's the first thing. So that's pretty neat. It's nice that they're showing themselves confident here. So, and it's actually, if you remember right, this is Joelle Jones who's both writing and doing the art on the 2-issue book that's coming out of Future State. So, whether or not she's involved with this mini or if it's going to be someone else, we'll see. But just worth keeping in mind.
It's possible because obviously she did Catwoman for quite a while, and then has these issues. I don't know if she has anything else lined up after that, so it's not impossible.
We don't really know if anyone's got anything lined up outside of some of the books that we know are continuing, because obviously, Tynion is still doing Batman. We have no idea what a lot of this stuff is falling come March.
That's true. There could be quite the shake-up. The solicits next month could be potentially very interesting.
Unless they pull a Marvel and we get a bunch of redacted covers with code names and shit. I doubt it, but...
I mean, DC don't tend to do that.
And well, I mean, I was more cracking a joke rather than offering you a point to seriously discuss.
I've just, it's because it's possible. It's not like it's an impossibility for it to happen.
Perhaps more intriguing and somewhat expected, to be honest, given how it ended. But Johns and Fabric have basically confirmed that they're planning a sequel to Three Jokers. This is something that they've got in the works. They've got a story that they want to do that springs off one of the many epilogues within the book that we got. This was them talking to CBR, and it's something they've got at some point. Now, honestly, I'm not shocked that with all the epilogues that book had, it kind of felt like something had to be, like, they had to have some sort of plan for at least something coming out of this.
Yeah.
I would suspect that, John's, given that he's doing stuff at Image now, given that he's obviously a very busy guy making a TV show, that getting the 3-issue mini like this every couple of years is probably the best we're going to get for a while in terms of his busy schedule. So
probably. If I had to guess, based on nothing but gut feeling, it'll be following on the Jason and Bab stuff.
For better and worse.
Yes, I'm not particularly interested in that, to be honest with you, but that's what I suspect it will be.
I mean, I'm going to read it no matter what, let's be honest, because it's Johns and Fabric, and like
after how disappointing I found Three Jokers, I'm not making that commitment.
They can still pull out a winner, just because that one wasn't a complete. And I liked it more than you did, even though I did have some problems with it. But still, there's hope, there's chances. So that is a sequel to Three Jokers. Who knows what they'll call it? 3 bats, 3 birds, 3 robins, 3 Batgirls. They could go any number of ways, even though there's like 4 or some of those things. But that's
you've hit on the logical answer. There is to say 4 something instead of 3.
Okay, sure. They might do that. I mean, we could probably do a whole Batman, 12 Days of Christmas Carol by the end of all these books that they put out. Maybe,
I mean, it'll take you about 20 years to get there, but it's possible.
So that is that, and then on a relatively minor note, I just thought I'd point out that in Burbank they've put up a statue of Batman.
Any particular reason, or just they felt like it?
Well, I'll read what the article says here. The California city of Burbank has partnered with one of its most famous businesses, DC, for a 7.5-foot tall bronze Batman statue that is now on display in the downtown area. The 600-pound statue was digitally sculpted by Alejandro Piari Ezcura, based on the DC Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee's seminal Hush arc. I'm just looking down to see if there's any particular reason.
Because they felt like it.
I don't know. Morale? It's been a shit year. Maybe some Batman in the middle of the street would do people some good.
Batman trying to scare away the germs.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, but I thought it was amusing. It looks like an expensive statue. So,
I mean, fair enough.
So there you go. That's about my statue. And the movie thing, of course, that happened this week is that Warner Brothers have caved and decided to do something which they've clearly been weighing up and stressing over and deciding what they should do. Should we do this? Should we do that? What are the benefits?
We even spoke about because there were the rumors of this last week, and I think I brought it up last week in the news as a possibility. Didn't take them too long to announce it, did it?
I don't think, I said this when I found out, I don't think this is going to be something that we're going to see as a trend for Warner Brothers movies, just like I don't think it's going to be something we see a lot of the big studios doing much of. There's a little bit of it happening, especially at the time this is this, because we're talking about Christmas Day here, which is the day that Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be released in whatever theaters happen to be open, but for most people it's going to be on HBO Max. So
yeah, just worth noting on the cinema release, it's Christmas Day in the US, but internationally it'll be on the 16th
of December.
Yeah, okay. I guess because a lot of countries the cinemas just aren't open on Christmas Day.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the more important thing here is that I see this as being kind of a it's a combination. I think on the one hand, they've had nothing out for so long. They've been holding so many movies back now because we're at this point now where the studios have been holding back movies since April, right? Everything scheduled from April onwards has been held back, with one or two, exceptions. Warner Brothers have held back things. Tenet being the big exception for them, that they put that out anyway. And I don't think this is them going to be putting out everything they had planned on HBO Max, but it's just the same way that I don't think Disney would do it with everything, even though they do it with Milan, even though they do it with one more Pixar movie, whatever. But I also think this is a PR stunt. I think this is, let's give everyone something really nice at Christmas. It's going to give us a nice big tick in the win column, and it's going to be a nice big treat for everyone. But I don't think they're going to start pumping out all of their movies. I still think they're going to hold off as much as they can. If anything, it could happen again. If we go another 6 months and there's still no sign of theaters mass opening again,
oh sure,
I think there may be another one then. Okay, it's been another 6 months. We'll put out one more because we have to drip feed this a little bit as we go.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting and worth noting about this is they're not. So what Disney are doing with the Pixar movie Soul is a little bit different to Mulan, where Mulan you had to pay the premium price to get it early.
It was $30,
yeah. Whereas Soul is just it's just part of the thing, and that is what Warner are doing here with Wonder Woman on HBO Max, where it's just part of HBO Max, but it's only going to be on there for like a month or 6 weeks or something, and then it's being removed again. So it's very clearly we want to push everyone to come and sign up for HBO Max for this 1 month. And then maybe we'll get some of them to stick around. But if we give it a hard deadline as you've only got this time to watch it, people will come and flock in, as opposed to it'll be there. I'll get to it when I get to it. I think that's a lot of their thought process here as well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the idea of anything rotating out of any of these services, whether it's Warner Brothers, Disney, whoever, is still baffling to me in every sense of the word, and defeats the purpose of having a dedicated streaming service of any of these things that hold their own they have their own library. Why are things rotating in and out? It's stupid. Stop it. But
yeah, and this is a particularly interesting one because, like I say, it's on there for like a month or 6 weeks, whatever it is, and then it's gone, and then you won't be able to buy it anywhere, and then it'll come back 6 weeks later or whatever it is after that you can buy it for purchase, but it won't be coming back to HBO Max straight away. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I'm long done caring about the stupid decisions of Warner's and Disney and any other place doing their own streaming service. I'm sick of talking about all their various practices on it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of it. How about they all up the bit rates a little bit so it's actually on par with physical media? Then we can talk. Then you're satisfying my demand, you bunch of pricks. Okay. Right, I don't want to see 4K streams where a 1080p Blu-ray still wins because the bitrate's there to support the actual image.
I'm entirely on your side. I'm very sympathetic. I'm with you on this.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is,
I don't care what the reality is. I don't care. Don't tell me what the reality. I don't give a shit.
Most people don't give a shit, and they're not.
I don't care.
And it would cost more for them to stream it higher, and they're like, well,
I don't
it's not worth
care.
the cost.
I do not care. It's inferior. They're peddling something that is inferior. I do not care. I'll pay a premium.
Go buy the 4K Blu-ray.
No, I'll pay a premium. Charge me $5 extra for the high bitrate version. I'll do it. I'll absolutely do it. It's worth it.
I know it is, and I would probably pay it as well. But I don't think it's worth it on their end. If I was in their situation, purely like a financial perspective, I get it. Probably doesn't make up your costs.
I don't care. It's their own goddamn product, and it looks shoddy. It just looks shoddy, and I do not like. Every time it goes to a dark scene in any of these goddamn streaming services, all I see is just a blob of pixels at parts of the screen.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's 4K, Dolby Vision. Doesn't matter if it's whatever it is.
At least with Wonder Woman, you don't have to worry about butchered 4K because it's just going to be 1080 to begin with anyway.
Yeah, that's just worse though. That doesn't make it better because they have a vastly lower bitrate for 1080.
It's less disappointing to start with. Yes, because you're not 4K image and then be like, oh, it's
what is this stupid logic you've got? It's less disappointing. No, it's worse. The baseline is worse. Therefore, it's a worse experience overall.
Yes, that does not mean it is less. It can still be less disappointing.
I don't care what's more. I don't care what's more disappointing. I care what the baseline of quality is.
Yeah, well, it's probably not going to change anytime soon. So get used to it.
Oh my god. Yeah, streaming bit rates suck, right? All of them do. Every single one of them. Anyway. Let's just talk about comics. I have anything else.
We probably should, yeah.
I have anything else, and I'm tired, and I'm in a grumpy mood, and I'm not in the mood for Connor shit today, which is why I'm just not entertaining it.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
To the point where I may just mute him if he gets extra annoying today.
That's fine. I can go play on the PS5. If you want to just do this.
I'll wage my power. How's your Xbox doing, by the way? Is it good? Is it working? Eh?
Shut up.
Yeah. PS5 loads in about 3 seconds. Your Xbox isn't loading for weeks, maybe months. And yes, I'm still.
Amazon
Kaz's.
Finally admitted it was lost.
Yes, I'm stealing Kaz's joke. If anyone follows Fake Kaz CEO on Twitter, he had basically that same joke, but I'm using it in the context of Connor's Xbox not arriving because I think it's funnier. Justice League 57, Joshua Williamson, Xermanico. This is wrapping up the tie-in arc, the death metal arc for death metal. Sorry, the doom metal arc for death metal. That's what I was meant to say.
I was going to say, that didn't sound right.
Yes, I told you I was tired. Okay, let's roll with the punches. So yeah, we're doing this first before death metal itself because actually, and I didn't read it first. I got to the end of Justice League and it was like, oh, I guess this kind of led in a way.
I read to the point in death metal. I started reading death metal first. I got maybe 4 or 5 pages in, whatever it was, and there's a point where Lex shows up in the ship, and I was like, huh, guess this is after Justice League, and then stopped and went and read Justice League before I finished.
It never even occurred to me, to be honest. I read Justice League, I read the death metal, and then it wasn't until the very end of Justice League where he walked out holding a globe, and I went, wait a minute, that globe got smashed. Oh no.
As soon as Lex showed up, I was like, hang on a second. Last time we left him, he was fighting with the Legion of Doom and the others. Was like, this must take place after Justice League, and immediately switched over. I
mean, I didn't care enough, to be honest.
I get that.
If I had realized, I wouldn't have cared enough, just because this arc's decent. It's a decent tie-in arc. It's fine. There's some nice beats in this issue as well, specifically. But it's not like. I mean, Death Metal 5 was the main event of the metal stuff this week. There was no doubt that was the case.
Absolutely. This is one of the better issues of this arc still, I would say.
It is. And it is calling back, I did not see this coming, but it calls back to the issue of Justice League. It was either 51 or 52. It was right at the start of Rebirth, where they had 2 issues left of the previous Justice League volume that were coming out after Rebirth started. And one of them was the story of the first time Dick Grayson met the Justice League. And it was when he snuck into the Batmobile, and Dick brings this story up and talks about it. And what's interesting is that by the end of the issue, it kind of fulfills the prophecy, if you want to call it that Batman actually said to him in that issue. Because at the end of that issue, if no one recalls, Batman said to him that, because Dick assumes, oh, one day you think I'm going to join the Justice League, and Batman responds, you're going to lead it. And this issue ends with Dick saying, no, we are the Justice League, and he is clearly leading them. He's been leading them the whole issue. He's become the leader of this team.
I did like. So I'll be honest. I didn't remember which issue this was from or when it was from, but I was like, no, I remember reading this. I remember the issue in general, which is credit to it that was enough to stick in my memory. And I kind of appreciate that I didn't feel the need to slap an editor's note on, because even if you've read that or not, just having this here is enough.
No, for sure. And I honestly, I think it's a really. We've talked about a lot recently about the speed metal issue from a couple of months ago. Well, last month, whatever it was, and how that was kind of paying off some Rebirth stuff, some Wally Manhattan stuff that was still kind of lingering, and this referencing something that was happening around that time as well. It kind of does feel like, whatever we're going into in March, because that's when the new stuff really starts. You know, we've got stuff before then. Maybe we're in a sort of interim reality or whatever before then. Future states, maybe doing alternate futures, whatever it is. But whatever we go into in March, it does kind of feel like they're kind of trying to pay off some things that have been sitting. And not that this needed paying off. This would have been fine if it hadn't been paid off. But it does feel
it was
sweet.
Just a nice thing.
Yeah.
It makes it feel like between this and Metal and Endless Winter, it feels like no, this is the ending of the Rebirth era of comics because we're paying off things from the start. And Endless Winter, I don't mean that it's necessarily paying things off, but it's the, this okay. Other books are on a break. We're kind of just gonna fill some time, do a bit of a capper, do a big story to kind of round it out while this is ongoing. It does feel like okay, whatever comes next is going to be a new period.
So Legion of Doom got released end of last issue. They're fighting Dick. Martian Manhunter puts a stop to that quite quickly by just Superman punching the ground. And there's some debating going on between the Legion and Lex about whether or not they should trust him because he betrayed them, and he's trying his best to kind of convince them. And ultimately, Dick and Co have to save Lex from them. And it's not until they realize the Omega Knight is still alive, because Chimp does show up. Chimp is not dead. And probably one of the best pages of the whole book, actually, is that full-page spread of him saying the Omega Knight is not dead, and the Omega Knight's just standing, towering over them. And the
kind
purple...
of like missing pieces of its body. Like one arm's gone entirely.
Yeah.
It's got a hole in the back of its head.
Very pretty. And... yeah, so it becomes this, okay, we have to team up, we have to work together, because if we just run, then Perpetua is going to know that you get freed, and she'll come after you, so help us. You've got no choice but to help us. So we have this, Legion of Doom sort of new Justice League team up. And yeah, the plan ultimately is that they're going to channel the idea that the Legion of Doom are powering this chair so they can sort of all power a big blast from the ultraviolet ring that Sinestro's got, and it'll actually, Lex points out, just to tidy this up so we don't have to worry about it in the future, this will burn out the ultraviolet spectrum.
It's like, we're just popping you back to normal, Sinestro. Yeah, bad time.
He's like, yeah, I prefer the color of fear anyway. He's like, all right. Which I'm not complaining. I mean, it served a fine story purpose, but I didn't really want the ultraviolet thing to stick around. I'm happy for it to be gone.
This is a neat way of getting it gone in story, and it's more points to this, referring back as well when Lex and Martian Manhunter are talking, and referring back to No Justice, which obviously was a few years ago now. Yeah,
that's kind of like the midpoint of Rebirth as well.
Yeah, because that's right before Snyder's run.
Yeah, I'd say that's I mean, I don't know if it's literally if you measure out the months, but it feels like the midpoint of Rebirth.
I think that was about 2016, right? So
2018.
2018, that's what I meant.
2016 was Rebirth.
That's what I meant.
Uh-huh.
God damn it. I'm tired as well, clearly.
Yes. So it works. They did blast the Omega Knight and everything's hunky-dory. And basically Martian Manhunter offers to Lex, like, hey, I once asked you for help, again, this is the No Justice reference, and you turned me down. But knowing what you know now, you could do some help. You could help the Justice League. But Lex has not made that choice. Lex goes with the Legion of Doom on his ship. He's got a boom tube. And
I love that. He's like, God damn it, he had a boom tube the whole time.
Yeah, there's a little joke there. Like, he could have just used that before. What the hell? But Dick says, no, we are the Justice League, and he walks off. There's, heroic pose with the rest of the team. And then there's some teasing at the end of, the main Justice League fighting what we know from Death Metal when we get to that is the Castle Bat transformed into an actual giant Batman.
Oh, we'll get to how cool that shit is.
So yeah, I mean, the last couple pages just a sort of tease for the issue Death Metal comes out. It does feel a bit weird. This is the only time I can think of in this entire event where the tie-in issue, not the main issue of Death Metal, was not the thing you should read first that week. So it's not really a problem. It's just that it's been so consistently not that it kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah, and that's like there was no editor's note in either one saying you should read this one first, which is what usually does happen. Which makes me think, was this always planned for this week?
Yeah, this was never. I don't think this was ever delayed. I think this was always.
Because that's what I was saying. Because that's the only reason I could think of why there wouldn't be an editor's note. Yeah, because this is like there usually is.
This is a every other week book because it's double shipping and it's been out consistently every other week for ages. So
yeah. So unless Metal was pulled forward at some point internally, but that doesn't sound right either.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. It's not a big deal, especially since I don't think my metal, I don't think is hampered in any way by not reading this first. And reading this doesn't necessarily feel like it hampers much outside of the fact that Lex is away.
There's an argument that the last couple of pages kind of ruin some of the stuff in the main issue as well.
Yeah. Plus, I'm pretty sure in Metal you don't see the fact that he's got the Legion of Doom on the ship with him. So, if anything, it kind of actively tries to hide what happens in Justice League, assuming that you probably read that first, because most people read Metal first.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I wonder if that was just a con. It's like, oh no, we'll spoiler proofed it so that you can just read Death Metal first, and then when you read Justice League, you'll be, oh yeah, okay, this is how we got there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they really thought this through, maybe.
Very nice. But hey, as what it is. Obviously, Xermanico's art is very good.
Nice to see him return. Yeah. There's been Robson Roca for most of the rest of the arc, I think. I think Xermanico started it.
I think Xermanico did the first two, I want to say, and then we had Robson Roca for the last two, and then he's back for this one.
And Roca's fine, don't get me wrong. I don't have any real problems, but Xermanico is just better.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think Roca did a decent job though, being like trying to match the style, keeping it as consistent as possible. The coloring, of course, helped. All that.
I was going to say the colors need a big shout out for kind of keeping that consistency. There's like the points where they're using like the ultraviolet and blasting, the Omega Knight, stuff like that. It really feels like, no, this is one cohesive book thanks to those colors.
Yeah. As far as like rotating artists for an arc goes, I think this is one of the more successful attempts to keep it feeling consistent. I mean, I've kind of just come to accept that outside of the big prestige books, your 12-issue Black Label stuff and things like that, that we just have to accept that ongoing books have rotating artists, and it's just the way things are. But when they can pull off some consistency with pairing people together smartly, I like it. Yeah,
I'm probably never going to accept that because it's only really a symptom of double shipping that there's exclusively caused that. I think.
I don't know. I feel like even single shipping books change artists like every arc anyway.
I mean, sure, every arc I can live with every arc. I can live with changing arc by arc. It's when it changes in the middle of an arc that really bothers me.
Not when it shifts to John Romita Jr. I can't. No.
Okay, there are exceptions, but I mean, there are examples of books we're going to talk about this week with more than one artist that is jarring and ugly. And that's way worse than having different artists per issue.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. This arc, it was not as good as some of the one shots have been. I think Death Metal has actually had an embarrassment of riches for how valuable and worthwhile the vast majority of its one shots have been. I think this arc in Justice League has been a fine, regular tie-in quality. And if you happen to really like Dick Grayson or any of these other characters, you might appreciate having them a bit of spotlight. Other than that, it's not really that needed. I'd say.
It's perfectly fine. I think, to be fair here with the tie-ins, it's not like there's not been a lot. There's been a reasonable amount.
Oh, there hasn't
been an overwhelming barrage of tie-ins either, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm surprised that there's only one or two of the one-shots that I would say are a bit less on the, you should probably just skip these. But I think, like, those three in that month where they took off were all very worthwhile and in some cases necessary.
They range from downright essential to, these are still worth reading.
And there's a couple of the anthology-style ones that I think actually added a lot of nice little character context for a lot of these smaller characters that I think were worth reading.
And have become more, not important necessarily, but become more valuable over time, like Castle Bat.
Yeah, that's a good example. Or even like the Bat Baby, because he ended up showing up in one of the other books last month, or this month even. But, so I think it's actually a really high standard. So this maybe kind of oddly looks worse than it normally would in terms of tie-ins, because the standard's been so high this time. Yeah,
and like, I mean, I don't know if we've read this yet, but I mean, I think I'm giving it a 7 if we didn't, it's about that. Like, it's a perfectly solid issue for a perfectly solid art. It's good. It's perfectly good.
Yeah, I
maybe
would
a little overlong.
I would go with a solid 7. Yeah, it could have been cut down to like 3 issues. I think. I feel like the middle 3 issues were kind of stretched out. I could have the first issue and the last issue perfectly fine. Those middle 3 could have been condensed into one.
If you just gave this a 3-issue Xermanico arc, like if I'm rating the arc as a whole, like as a tie-in, it's probably like a 6.5. If you give me a 3-issue Xermanico arc, we're maybe looking at an 8 at that point, frankly. as a little tie-in arc, just this short, concentrated blast of fun.
Yeah.
As it was, it kind of overstayed its welcome a little bit, but it was never bad.
So, yeah. Dark Knight's Death Metal issue 5, naturally. This is Scott Snyder writing, Greg Capullo on art, as we expect. And some big implications in this issue. This is kind of the one that starts to tease what sort of potential world and continuity we might be in come the end of this.
This issue got... The first half was fun metal action, and then the second half was, this is doing interesting things now.
Yeah, the starts... I don't want to downplay it. It's not good because it is good, but it's it's whatever. It's just it's the traditional metal stuff. The Darkest Knight is going to fight Perpetua. He leaves Castle Bat to fight what's left of the Justice League. So there's a lot of fighting with them. Because it's
Castle Bat is cool as shit.
Because it's made out of like everything Batman's ever like assembled. There's red sun fragments.
Everything ever in Gotham.
Yeah, there's red sun fragments, so Superman's like weak against it. There's other materials that are good against Wonder Woman. Stuff from various godlike entities and whatever. It's all fun stuff, and it's actually Lex showing up and using Brainiac tech to shrink it into like a little bottle globe, a little snow globe, which Harley smashes. It's worth mentioning. She just throws it in the ground, smashes it. But that's how that solves. Where it gets interesting though is after this, where they're talking to Lex about how to possibly solve this, and Lex is like, "Okay, I've got kind of a plan, and I realize that no one really wants to listen to me." And Superman's like, "You know what? Given the look of your face, I'll let you speak. I'll let you at least get your speech out."
What is interesting is I actually read this wrong originally. He goes, because he actually says, but seeing what's happened to you, say your piece. Because I just knew he was clearly looking at him going, dude, that don't look good. I actually at first misread it but seeing as what's happened to your face. and I was like, no, he doesn't say that. Read it properly.
Yeah, I never read that. I was just paraphrasing because that's essentially what he means.
Yeah, but that's actually, I had to stop and reread it because I knew what he meant before I'd even finished the sentence.
But Lex is talking about having to think smaller, not bigger, right? This like fighting crisis with crisis energy or anti-crisis with crisis, whatever. He talks about this incident of him growing up and how he used to always sneak off to the planetarium and he watched this science documentary about the Big Bang and the creation of the universe. But one day he got really shit scared because they had something wrong with the projector and it played backwards, so everything was uncreated and it went back to the beginning. And he talks about how his father reacted when he was scared about this and whatnot, but he essentially says that the attempt to fight the crises with the anti-crisis energy or crisis energy, whatever the sides that they're peddling is, it should have worked. And the reason why it didn't is because Wonder Woman hesitated, is because she didn't really believe that it could work. And that's why it failed. And ultimately, continuity, and this is where it's getting very meta, because the page that kind of shows this better than anything, it's a really simple way of showing it, is it's the lasso is knotted, and it's like every time there's a crisis, there's a knot, and it gets confusing, it gets complicated and weird, and all we're going to do is we're going to take everything back to the start, and we're going to restart the entire universe, and everything that's ever mattered, everything that's ever happened, for better or worse, will have happened, and we have to accept the simple truth that not everything that we want to have not happened has happened. And there's something beautiful about the context of this issue, and I think this issue justifies why Wonder Woman has been framed as the center of the whole thing, is because it ultimately becomes about truth. And she turns to Superman and Batman and says, Bruce Clark, tell me the truth. And Batman admits that he's been dead this entire arc. That's why the Black Lantern rings are working with him. It's because he's been dead the whole time. And Superman is like, yeah, I've changed, there's no turning back. But we'll fight with you one last time. There's something about the one who wields the lasso, the golden lasso, that makes people tell the truth. That she was kind of almost being ignorant and not really ready to believe what the world was around her, and that they had to essentially, for lack of a better term, turn it off and turn it back on again. And
I love it. It's all about the truth of continuity. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. So they talk about how some good things will have happened because they were erased, but some bad things that were erased will have happened. And I don't know how they're going to tackle this. Like, is this literally describing that when we come back in March, everything from continuity in some form will have happened? That
it's possible that this is why we have Future State.
Hmm.
Is this is the result of all the shit that this untangles? That's where the world is now, is Future State.
And then once it settles and becomes present continuity, it's because the universe has to sort of right itself into something that's not just fractured like Future State.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I do wonder, like, will there be one of the stories in Future State that actually has a bit of like what leads to it reforming? If that indeed needs to happen, maybe it's just a what if sort of thing. But if that is the case, then
it's really interesting because I think we spoke about this when the first solicits came out. Is that it doesn't seem to have a headline book.
No, not a central one. No,
there's nothing that I can obviously point out and go, that's the one where things will happen. You know, it might happen in one of them.
But I don't think it would shock me if there ends up being one that's a bit of a dark horse where it's like, oh, all of a sudden this one book seems like the most important one of the whole line.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. So then they start forming the plan. And what they're going to use obviously the metal that Lobo got in the one shot last time. And Wonder Woman's like, hey, I need an army. Lobos, the rumors about your regeneration true? And I'm like, oh god, they're going to have tons of Lobos that have all been grown out at various limbs and digits and whatever. But you cut to Superman and he's with like all the villains. Now I think the Joker's a bit of a stretch here because the Joker, even in this situation, I don't know if you'd want to be working with the Joker in any way, shape or form. But, you know, Croc's there, Granny Goodness, Mr. Freeze. At least I think that's maybe Mr. Freeze.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
You know, you get Cyborg Superman's there on the back and all the rest of it.
Penguin, Riddler.
Yeah. He's like, hey, right, so you're going to work with us. We're going to, do something. And he's like, what? You sure? We're not really known for saving the Earth. And he's like, well, exactly. I want to destroy it. So basically, because Earth is the center of, and they don't use this word, but this is essentially what they're talking about. Because Earth is the center of the metaverse, everything's kind of channeling through it. So if it's destroyed, then the Batman Who Laughs / the Darkest Knight can't actually grow his new worlds that he's building to replace everything. And they'll remain in their infancy, and therefore they stand a chance at fighting them. So we get this glorious 2-page layout of Superman with Bizarro, Superboy Prime, and Cyborg Superman. You got Sinestro with some other villainous lanterns, Black Adam, and then on Earth you got Swamp Thing and Abbey Arcade, and they're all basically going to just start attacking the Earth with all their power to destroy it.
Yeah, you have Wonder Woman with Lex, and you know he gives her the book that we've seen him holding the whole time. You know, since that tease in was it the first issue? And I said, it kind of looks like he's holding out the Book of Destiny, like that sort of thing. And it's not. It's just Carter Hall's journal with just this thorough account of history. Kind of wonderful.
Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously Batman Who Laughs is fighting Perpetua during this point, and during the fight he just turns and goes, wait, those fools, they're going to, because he realizes what they're doing, so he's like, no, he literally sends his planets, the planets that he's building, and then we cut to, you know, a mix of heroes and villains. You got Superman next to Black Manta and Penguin of all people, you know, Batman's there, you got a bunch of D and C listers behind them, you got all sorts of characters.
The ones with Batman are all the dead characters that he's resuscitated with the Black Lantern stuff.
That's a good point, yes, they are all dead characters. But yeah, you got a whole mix of characters there. You see Clayface at the back, Duke's up front, a bunch of people. And at the end of the issue is just like them saying, oh shit, there's like tons of planets coming. They've got armies. And we see like an evil Wonder Woman, we see, you know, an evil Martian Manhunter that are different to the ones we've been seeing typically thus far. And the final page is where this kind of officially becomes a crisis, or the anti-crisis, because the final page is just all these planets that all look very Earth-like, just swarming the page, and it's like, you know, this is it. And you know, Wonder Woman's whole thing is, at the start of the issue, Robin King was telling her that Wonder Woman on his Earth, made this big speech about fight like there's always going to be a tomorrow, before he, sneakily killed her. And Wonder Woman kind of takes that and says, no, fight like there is no tomorrow, because there kind of isn't, and that's how we're going to win. So It's a big bold ending. I did smell at the last page because it's DC. It's a crisis.
It's one of those issues where even though it's not technically any better than the previous issues, and I say that as someone who's been very much on board with all the issues, but it got to this point, this last few pages, and it just felt exciting. Like, oh, this is a proper event now. Like, this is a proper DC crisis.
Yeah, we're in proper crisis territory, and they've been talking about crisis and anti-crisis since issue 1, and that's been cool. The idea that we're going to attack the idea of a crisis head on with an anti-crisis, that's always been cool. But getting to this last page is like, okay, this feels like a crisis now. That feels like we're actually in crisis territory.
And it's been a while since we've had a good crisis, so it's still, even though we've been playing with it for a while, and this event itself, like I say, since the start has been playing with the idea of crisis, and we had the one of the one shots that visited a bunch of the other crises, and this one here, it's just finally, it's like, oh no, we're finally doing it. This is now kind of, it joins that pantheon.
Yeah, and I think just to go back to talk about Wonder Woman, her being the center, and the idea of like, her being the one who has the lasso of truth, and the irony of her having to accept the truth. I think on the meta level, like tying that into the metaverse and the meta continuity talk and all that, is that, yeah, this is all about the truth. This is about the truth that, yes, pre-crisis happened, post-crisis happened, Flashpoint, New 52 happened, Rebirth happened, they all happened. Like that is the truth. That's what this is all about. It's about establishing the truth.
Yeah.
And there's something really meta and wonderful about it. And I don't suspect, DC, you'll find a way of retconning for the rest of the time. And that's why, Jeff Johns with Doomsday Clock and the metaverse kind of like just future-proofed everything to say it's okay, that it all matters.
Yeah, it seems like they maybe want to be swapping away from metaverse towards omniverse, but it feels like functionally the same thing.
Yeah, but eventually they're going to retcon again because they're going to be in the mid to retcon in 5 or 10 years. And at that point, what John set up with the metaverse.
No, what I'm saying is the omniverse, I don't think is any different necessarily from the metaverse. I think they're just calling it something slightly different. But I think it is functionally more or less the same thing.
But that's issue 5 of Death Metal. What are you giving it?
I'm giving it an 8.5. A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to give it an 8.5. Really solid stuff. I think if the first chunk was as strong as the back half, I'd probably go higher, but that's kind of where I land. So there we goes. Batman 103, James Tynion the Fourth, Guillem March with Carlo Pagulayan on the art. I suspect you will have opinions on that combination of artists.
I mean, because it's Pagulayan for most, or the first like half, 2/3 of the issue. And then there was a point where, because I hadn't realized that Guillem March was on this issue, I don't think, because when I saw the credits page, I saw Carlo Pagulayan and Danny Mickey, who is, I think, maybe his inker. And then didn't, and I thought, okay, 2 artists, that's fine. But I didn't register me to look any further to see Guillem March.
Yeah. And
then I got to the art, I was like, this looks suspiciously bad. This looks suspiciously Guillem Marchy bad. And then I was like, oh, god damn it, that's why.
Yeah, so Ghostmaker, we get more of the flashback with Tim and young Bruce and their discussion about, caring being a weakness and Bruce being sentimental about his parents and them both training with all the best masters and combat experts in the world, blah, blah, blah. Kind of the same thing. I'm not super into the whole flashback stuff.
Yeah, still kind of hate it.
It's kind of, it's this weird, funny thing that what I said about the last issue is that I don't like this Ghostmaker backstory stuff, but I like everything that they're doing in Gotham around it. So I'm still kind of excited for the ongoing stuff. It's kind of like a mediocre episode of a TV show that I really love, where there's still a lot of character beats that I really like and what it's setting up for future, stories and things like that. And I maintain that here, like having Oracle still talk to Batman is really cool. One of the key plot elements of this, which is basically one big fight, or well, it's 2 big fights, I'll say. You get Batman and Ghostmaker on the roof, and then eventually you've got Clown Hunter and Harley in her apartment, and then they kind of merge. And as this is going on, so Bruce and Ghostmaker's basically saying, hey, within like 5 minutes of arriving, I solved these 3 things. And he talks about these different crimes. There's a serial killer who was going under the radar because he didn't have a gimmick, he wasn't wearing a costume, he was just an old-fashioned serial killer. there's corrupt judges, and there was a shipment of arms and things like that. And he's talking about all this stuff, and there's a great beat towards the end. And again, this is talking about the world of Gotham and everything it's doing that I love. When Batman basically says, "I knew about all these things," right? So that serial killer, and we see a big panel of Cass wearing the Bat logo, and she's got the Bat ears, right? We got full on Batgirl Cass outfit. She was tailing him. She was watching to try and find out where the rest of his victims were, to sort of get confirmation for the families. It wasn't going unnoticed, and it wasn't going to let him kill anyone else. That was very clear. And then with the arms, I swapped them out. There was no real ammunition. The whole idea was to lead to this big international culprit who's funding all these guys. It was about catching the bigger fish. It was all a strategy, and I like that payoff to that earlier debate. I thought that was solid.
Yeah, I like the idea that Ghostmaker thinks he's this big hotshot solving all these things, and he's so much better than Bruce, and that's why he's coming in and cleaning up Gotham for him. And it's he has no actual tactical awareness despite all his training. He just deals with the he deals with the symptoms, not the cause, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't help that I already didn't really care for Ghostmaker, in the rest of the issue. So undermining him here, it's not like it kind of just made him even less interesting than he already was. That he's not even that smart.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's I don't think it's specifically saying he's not that smart. I don't think that's. I mean, maybe that's how it comes across, but I don't think that's the intention. I think the intention is more. Because I think the whole point is that he was kind of making Batman look bad, and then the point is no, Batman's actually not being an idiot here. He knows what he's doing.
I will retract the word smart and replace with the word wise.
Fair. So there's a lot of banter with Harley and Clown Hunter and whatnot. I mean, it's a little wordy as an issue, but it's a fairly quick read because of the premise of it, which is just these two fights that kind of then merge. And the issue ends with Ghostmaker. He's actually knocked out everyone in the room basically with darts. In the last page, it's Batman himself who gets darted. And I think from a structural point of view, I think this arc is very well structured. I think this issue being a big fight to prove the sort of the equalness in combat for the most part, them sparring as they're doing so, all these other things. I think from a structural point of view of the arc, this issue makes a lot of sense. The problem is that I don't think either of us are really liking Ghostmaker or are really buying what he is, and just see him as kind of a throwaway villain. And maybe by the end of the arc, there'll be a point that's made with him that'll say, maybe it was worth making the point, so whatever. But at least right now, we're not really feeling him. So that's the big problem with the issue. But I think from an objective, take out how we feel about the villain, I think from a structural point of view, the arc is actually telling its story in a very solid way. We just really don't care about the villain.
I agree with most of that. I do agree. Structurally, it's kind of fine. I think the other big problem with the storytelling, there is not just I dislike Ghostmaker's character, is the art. Frankly, I think switching to March.
I was talking about structure. What part of that meant I wasn't?
This is storytelling still, and in comics, the art is a big part.
I'm not disputing that. I was talking about the structure of the writing. Nothing about that implies I was forgiving the art in any way, shape, or form.
No, fine. I will concede the structure. You
presented that as if it was a contradictory point. I'm like, no, I didn't say anything that you're contradicting. Wait, shut up.
I was broadening the point. I said as a story in the storytelling format.
It could just be a new point. Just start a new point. It doesn't have to be. Just go on, say your thing.
Well, yeah, Guillem is terrible. Basically, it distracts me. Like I say, there was a point in this issue where, and I think this fundamentally harms the story to a point where, like I said, I wasn't really feeling Ghostmaker, but I'm like, it's fine. I get what it's doing. I'm not really enjoying it, but it's okay. And then it got to the it's when it switches to Harley basically, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this took a big step down, and all of a sudden it's actually distracting me to read it, not just okay, I'm not really feeling these ideas of what he's doing in the writing. It's like I'm actually struggling with the enjoyment of reading it now as well, which severely limits the impact that the art can have, even by the end. Well, maybe I'll like Ghostmaker a bit more, and I'll go, oh, well, maybe the art was a little bit better than I thought. But right now, it's not helping itself with things like this. I mean, I don't like it when you have two artists on a book at the best of times. It's bad enough when they're very different styles, and the book does suddenly switch quite drastically because it's really quite clean at the start. Like if you look at the title page and look at it, Batman doing that punch there, he's basically clean shaven. The big square jaw. It's such all this clean stuff, and then you go to the last page and look at Bruce as he's being darted, and it's this really scratchy thing. His chest is everywhere. Like it's really it's not even it's not even close to melding in styles, which really hurts the kind of the impact of the issue overall, I think, for me.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with that idea. I feel like there's only so many ways we can talk about the mixing of two artists in a single book.
No, there is, but I say we talked about it done better than this for sure. This is like it felt particularly egregious to me because it was there are some times where I don't even really feel it. I mean, even last issue of Batman had two artists on, but the switch wasn't as bad. It was only a few pages at the end. I was like, okay, I can see it, but it's not. It wasn't like as I was reading it, I didn't feel like, oh, this is suddenly so different. Whereas this one, as soon as I turned the page, I was like, this is completely different. Like it feels like I've just picked up a different book entirely.
Yeah, but that is nothing to do with the change and everything to do with who the change is to, right? If this is because it's Guillem March. Guillem March. It doesn't matter who the first artist was. There was no scenario in which switching to Guillem March halfway through the book was not going to be jarring and annoying.
No, that's fair, but then I think that's down to editorial to make sure when they're finishing, because usually when they're doing this, it's because, well, okay, one artist doesn't have enough time to finish the whole book, so we'll pull in someone else to do some pages, and they'll do these pages, and we'll get it out on time that way. I think that it's editorial's responsibility to choose artists with complementary styles. If they're going to do that, if they insist on it happening. And this is a particularly egregious case where they didn't.
I'll disagree. I knew everything you were going to say about this, so I'm just sitting here going through the motions, waiting for you to say the same thing you always say about this topic.
Well, I'll keep saying it when they, until they stop doing it.
So jarring, ruined the book for me. Can't focus on the art.
Also, that last page is particularly ugly. Like, like Guillem March is not my favorite of the best of times, but that last page, I don't know what is going on with Batman's chest.
Nah, the body proportion in that last page is by far the worst thing about the art in this issue. It's all over the place because the rest of the pages with Guillem March art, they're kind of vary from like baddish to mediocre, but conversely is like a lot of what he's done in this book since Tynion's run started. Like this is by no means even close to the worst of his stuff. But the last page sticks out as being kind of some of his worst. It's still not a Riddler spine thing or whatever that was.
And I think that's part of why I am harping on the jarringness of this issue in particular, because I agree that last couple of pages aside, I don't think this is Guillem March's worst work. I don't think this is even his worst work on this Batman run. But it's just the change in style is so drastic from the clean lines that we had before that it sticks out more. Even though it's technically better than some of his previous work, I'd notice it more in this issue than I did in some of those other ones.
All right, just rate this and put me in my misery, will you?
It's a 5.
I'm conflicted. I think from a structural point of view, I really appreciate that it does to spend the whole issue doing the fighting. Because the last issue built up to two things. It built up to the Clown Hunter coming after Harley, and it built up to the first proper confrontation between Batman and Ghostmaker. And I appreciate that both things weren't resolved within 2 or 3 pages, and then quickly moved on to like more stuff. I think actually letting the fight breathe for a whole issue actually brings across the idea that Ghostmaker, even though he's always kind of lost by the sounds of it whenever they've fought in the past, is at least good enough to go toe-to-toe with Batman for at least a set number of time. So I think it's telling its story completely fine. From a writing point of view, it's doing everything fine. Except for the fact that I just don't like the villain and I don't like the trope of he's in the backstory stuff. That's partially personal taste. I do think it is a kind of a weak. I hate to say lazy because writing's hard, but it is one of those things where I'm like, really, it's like a love triangle.
It feels like an easy
it.
fallback trope. Stop
it, right? The number of times Batman's had someone who we've never heard of be a part of his past show up again.
Do you know why it feels lazy? And again, we're not saying writing is lazy. I'm sure that he works hard. They all do. But the reason it feels lazy is because it takes so little effort to slot someone in the backstory and go, oh, look, they were just there the whole time. As opposed to constructing it from scratch in a present day and building up that relationship. It feels like it takes a lot more work to do.
Yeah, but it's far more satisfying when they do that, so it's a shame they don't do it more often. So, I'll give it 5.5. Higher than you.
All that for a 5.5.
Well, I'm a complex beast, what can I say? Aquaman, 65. Kelly Sue DeConnick writing with Miguel Medonca on the art. So this ends the run. It ends Kelly Sue's run. And they've been teasing a wedding for a while between Mira and Volko. Of course, the ending of this issue, we actually finally have the wedding. I feel like Kelly Sue, when she was brought into this book, this was probably what she was brought in to do, is to basically get to the point where we finally marry off Mira and Arthur.
Yeah, this has been, again, in terms of things feeling like closing the Rebirth era. Like, this is something that was going on right at the start.
Yeah, it was promised in that one shot, in the Rebirth one shot, and here we are 4 years later, 4.5 years later, and it's finally happened. They've finally been married. And, it's a solid issue. It doesn't really do anything super surprising. I like all the water gods and whatnot being called upon to help, and I like even the Justice League show up with breathers on to help with the fight.
It does feel a little bit like they're just here.
It does, but at the same time, like, it's actually a really fair complaint in a lot of solo books where why don't they call in some of the Justice League to help with this situation? It feels like this is a job for the whole team.
It does, but then we see the Justice League in literally one panel standing behind him, and then I don't think they do anything in the rest of the issue.
They show up to the wedding. Don't play that.
Okay, fine. They show up, but other than that, they just float behind Arthur for 2 or 3 panels in the entire book.
Because it's not really that much of a fighting issue. It's more about making the grandstand, and even of course the Dagon or Dagonians or whatever you pronounce the Dagon race. Like them turning on arms a big deal because Dolphin's kind of showing the guy the error of his ways, and they're even able to convince the woman that's trapping Mira to let her go. So it's basically this idea that the Mira is like, hey, we've failed your people just like we failed Atlanteans. We're going to try and work out something, and take us into a better place going forward. Even the widowhood, Cetia gets to see the poverty in Atlantis and goes, oh shit, maybe I've been ignoring some of this a little bit high and mighty in my tower. And all this is fine. That was a sharp one.
Yeah, sorry.
So, we finally have Mira and Arthur playing mum and dad, feeding the baby, all the rest of it. And we have what I think is a wonderful fake out where there's a tentacle monster attacking a ship, but it turns out to be that guy that we had the whole arc about. I forget his name, but the lighthouse keeper.
Not Lovecraft.
Yes, who was turning into the monster, and he's actually faked this for them, and they've got people ready at the boat. It's a surprise, wedding, which is a weird concept when you think about it. People don't. I mean, surprise parties are one thing, but surprise, we're getting married today. It's something you really don't spring on someone typically often, but it does make sense given their weird, journey to get here. So you got the Justice League, you got all the people, the water gods, and Mother Shark's narrating the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it ends with them being married, and it's the sweet kind of I don't know if it's a farewell to the book as a whole, because this wasn't officially done. Because
No,
obviously,
it's still got issues in Endless Winter.
yeah, but are they actually numbered as the main book, or are they like Endless Winter 1 and 2? I think, or something like that.
No,
That's not
Aquaman
numbered.
66.
Yeah, it's Future State that they're all minis. Yeah, next month's don't get numbered issues. Yeah, you're right.
I just checked; it has the Endless Winter checklist at the back.
Oh, very good. So I wonder if yeah, so I wonder if this numbering continues in March. If Aquaman's still going, is there a bold new direction? And if there is a bold new direction, do we get to keep the marriage? I hope we do. I hope that's not something that's just swept under the rug because continuity's been warped again.
Yeah, that would be really frustrating.
Especially,
we spent 4.5 years getting to this point, and then it undone 3 months later.
especially since the whole thing in Metal is that the idea that everything happened. So the idea that they're promoting that in Metal, but then things like this are immediately undone at the end of it would feel really disingenuous.
Yeah, it would.
So I'd hope not, but I mean, I enjoyed the issue. I think we said that the break, which was unfortunate, and out of it, no one's at fault for it, but the break off did kind of hurt the last issue a little bit. This one, I think, worked a little bit better because it wasn't really about the specifics of who was where and who was doing what. It just kind of paid off everything that the run had been doing with the characters. So
yeah, I will say it felt a little bit rushed, this issue. Like it felt like we went through quite a few beats. Like we wrapped up the stuff, we down below, and then we did the tour of the multiple epilogues. I felt like I needed another issue at the end of this run here.
I think it is. I think it was supposed to be more. I think it was cut down probably because of the reason why they had to delay it in the first place and put in a couple of fill-in issues.
Do you think maybe Kelly Sue actually had an extra 2 issues planned, and that's why we got the 2-issue fill-in? We're still going to end here because they wanted it for Endless Winter, so it had to end here regardless.
I could see a lot of the. I could have seen almost a full issue of Orm and Arthur like duking it out and like sort of like trying to debate while fighting before all the big.
I mean, if it kind of just felt like by that point, and then everyone go, do you know what? We kind of think they're right. It all kind of happened very quick, and then we kind of rushed through all the epilogue stuff.
I think just like the Gap, I think this is a case of, unfortunately, we just she had to take extra time and knew that, okay, I can't do 4 issues, I can only do 2 now, and the story had to be condensed into 2 issues. And I think that's just the
I get it. That's the reality of it, and I'm not going to hold it against it too much. But it does. I did feel it while I was reading it. That's kind of what I'm getting at. I did feel that we're kind of getting through this kind of quick. Here, perfectly solid issue.
I did like though that the ending does incorporate the sea gods. It incorporates the Kraken dude. It incorporates everything that's kind of been in the run, which makes it all feel like part of one whole. Even though, it is in a lot of ways just capping off what Aquaman has been since the start of Rebirth. And I think I can respect that. I also really like Jackson kind of like jumping in and giving Orm what for, and like he gives this speech about being good or whatever, and he sort of stops after he's done and looks, oh sorry Arthur, I probably stepped on your toes there a little bit, and Aquaman is just like chuffed and just gives him a fist pump. I don't know, like that I thought that was a neat moment, because as much as the Jackson like fill in 2-parter wasn't that great, I think Jackson's inclusion in the run in general has been pretty good. And it's nice for him to have a moment like that. It kind of felt like it elevated him a little bit, just having this moment where he stands up to Orm and says, "What the hell, dude? Shut up."
And that pretty much sums up this issue for me. There are a lot of good moments. Like there are a lot of really good moments. It just doesn't feel like they're given space to breathe. Like hell, even like right at the end where they're finally just being parents. I could have done with a few more pages of this.
Oh sure, yeah.
Just some banter between them of normalcy. Was nice. And also, how the hell does Mira get changed so quick?
It's that Zabellian genealogy, that's all it is. No, that's delightful. You got bridesmaids, including Wonder Woman. Oh god, what's her name? Tula? Yeah. And of course Dolphin there. Bridesmaid.
Yep.
So, I mean, all of it works. Like I say, it's a bit rushed, but it's kind of the unfortunate circumstance that that was dealt to DeConnick, to the whole team. But all of the beats are nice at the end, and I'm kind of happy with the thing. I've enjoyed DeConnick's run. I do think obviously the first couple of arcs were definitely the high points. Obviously, things get in the way a little bit with the last arc, because it was essentially only 3 arcs ultimately.
It was, yeah. I think the first arc was still the strongest for me.
I think I like the second one a bit more because I like I love the small town vibes when Aquaman sort of spends time in the town in the bay and
I think they're probably both equally well written. I think this is just different tastes at this point.
Very possibly. It's funny because I thought it was kind of on track to maybe being like the best Aquaman run that I've read. I don't think it ever really quite got there though, and what I mean by that is I do think not the whole run, but the best of Abnett's run, I think probably still stands above what we've had.
The back half, third, whatever it was from when Sejic came on.
Yeah, that issue 25 on, pretty much.
Yeah.
That said, though, I love that alien style arc at the end of the teens, so I mean, I'd say about there on it's pretty great. But clearly, yes, when he got to issue 25, it was like a step up in overall quality.
That chunk of his run is probably the best that I've read, but as a whole run, I don't know. There's some stuff at the start that drags it down quite a lot, right?
Oh, there is. But there's definitely more heights in there than I'd say this got to, and definitely more than Johnsy's run. And I did enjoy Johnsy's run, but
very solid, yeah. And this was, again, barring the unfortunate circumstance of this final arc, it was very consistent. I would say this run was, but it didn't have the heights that it maybe promised in those first few.
Don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to someday reading through this run again, but skipping all the fill-ins. There was that one issue fill-in a while ago, going in this 2-part fill-in that we just had. Like, I think this will read quite well when it's just on its own as 3 trades or one big hardcover, whatever it is. So there you go. What are you giving this final DeConnick issue of Aquaman?
I'm going to give it a 7 because I do like everything in it, but I don't think I am in good conscience give it anything higher than that.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 7. It's Oh, it's unfortunate, obviously, the things that have fell upon it, but I mean, it's just kind of, I mean, some 2020s hit other things much harder than this book get hit, so I mean, I can't really be too mad.
In the grand scheme of things of the world, it's pretty not that bad.
Well, I was just even thinking other forms of entertainment in terms of stuff being cancelled or delayed or whatever. Like,
when was the last time we had a new movie?
Catwoman issue 27, Ram V writing with Fernando Blanco on the art. So we've been feeling positive about this. This is the 3rd issue of the run, and we'd set up kind of the status quo with the various crime organizations, the corrupt cop, all that stuff. And this issue, continues that thread. It has, what's his name? Hadley?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Hadley, the detective. And he's looking into, the burglar that clearly was Catwoman because of the claw marks, and he's like trying to figure out what does she want. But what's, I think, really smart about this issue, because the first issue had to pack in so much stuff, so much setup, so much exposition of all the various characters, is that this issue got to just take what it's set up and give us like a simple little like sort of thriller heist plan. Yeah, where Catwoman's watching this van. That's what she stole. She stole intel where this delivery was going. It's this van full of drugs, and she's watching. But she's got all of her troubled teens that she's kind of adopted, like helping her, and they've all got parts to play in this plan. One's on the bike, directing traffic. One's in a truck. One's doing this. One's doing that. And the sequence plays out wonderfully. It's it's beautifully drawn. The sequential art and the motion and it's got this pulse to it, which feels like this a scene in a thriller where all the heist stuff is going off.
I love the coloring as well. The way it shines like the headlights. Really effective stuff.
It's all, even just something as simple as the van is the van is bright blue, and then later on, like they use a truck to hit it, which is bright red. And I love it's almost this kind of like the 2 key vehicles, because there's a lot of other vehicles in the road. There's like a white car, there's other things, there's someone on a bike. But the 2 most important things on the road are very brightly color coded for us, so that our eye always is caught to them. We always go to them first. And even just the page where Catwoman like gasses them when they get out the van, and we get this fight sequence. She's wearing the gas mask. I mean, it's beautiful. I
love the way that this is. It's free form. There's no there's no like paneling. It's just she pops up out of the smoke and kicks or punches and whatever happens, and you just see it. This random smattering of violence. Works really well.
The beautiful transition from that page to the next is that there's two guys in the van who open the doors, and in the top panel on the next page, when they open the doors, they're actually sort of like pushing the smoke to the side, right? So the previous page, it's all freeform with no paneling. It's all just the smoke and the cloudiness. And then the very first panel on the next page is the smoke being cleared in the panel as an action. Yeah. It's a really smart little transition. And then Catwoman, of course, takes them down. It's all fine. They basically trick the corrupt cop who was paid to watch the shipment by having him follow a fake van it's empty. And it's all this, all that. She goes, because we know that this the gun runner, the other mob boss lady at the strip club, she had kind of like ratted on her to begin with at the end of the last issue.
Yeah.
And but Catwoman still goes to her and she says like, hey, we got a deal now, I've proven that I can do this. It's all very good. But at the end of the issue, she says, you know what, I think I like Catwoman. Selena Kyle, she's feisty, she's this, she's strong, she's independent, all this stuff. But she called it my streets and she's got too many like morals and ideals. And she's got a sniper looking at Selena take the shot. And it was that, it was right as this was happening, I was like, wait a minute, we had like an assassin last issue who was like watching her.
I almost want this to be the last page of the issue, though. That last panel, you take the shot, and it's just a black panel, just says bang. I kind of want that to be the end of the issue. Like, there's only like 2 pages after that, but I feel like that's a more effective end.
It kind of is, but I kind of love that this is where it sort of brings back this assassin from last issue, because there's a moment where she says take the shot. I'm like, wait a minute, there was already an assassin watching her. What happened to him? And then the very next page, the gunshot was him taking out the sniper and saying, no, like you don't take another man's kill, and talking about how when I kill her, I'll wait until she's at her happiest. I'll wait until she's actually feeling she's on top of the world, and I'll take it from her.
Because Ram V understands storytelling.
Yes, it's wonderful stuff. The pacing's wonderful. The art's gorgeous. Coloring's immaculate throughout. Even just like the silent panels. Well, not even that silent, but it's Hadley. He gets a note from Catwoman saying to go to the storage locker because she doesn't want the drugs. She wants them off the street. So she's basically just sort of set them up in a storage locker for him, along with some handcuffed bad guys to take in. But the idea that we go from like the purples of the club where the mob boss lady is. To the rainy streets, and then it becomes like a really blue rainy street when the Catwoman's there and the assassin's like on the rooftop. Like it really plays with the coloring and the setting of each scene.
The coloring's wonderful when it's with Hadley, especially whether that's kind of at his apartment or or if he's just coming out of the GCPD offices, wherever it is at the end, and at the start where he's inside the GCPD in the offices. It feels like I'm reading Gotham Central. With that flat beige coloring. I really like it.
Yeah, honestly, the book has a Gotham Central feel to it, which is weird given that we're following Catwoman mainly, but because she's doing crime stuff and it's really well executed crime stuff, it kind of has a vibe, like a crime movie vibe to it. And
it does, yeah.
And it had that last issue as well, to be fair, but here it has that too. And I think because it revolves around this van heist, it gives it this focus that lets you just follow a fun thing. And there was so much information set up last issue that as I was starting this, I'm like, I remember vaguely these characters, but I think what this issue does that's really smart is because it lets us focus on a really simple plot of watching this plan unfold. As it brings in the characters we learned about last issue, it became very easy to remember who each of them were, the context of what they are in the story. And it's something that there's other comic books that really struggle with this, where they'll introduce a lot of new characters in a book. And it'll get to the next issue, and I'll be like, "Oh God, who are these characters?" None of this is stuck. And I think this is almost a masterclass in how to reiterate who they are without it feeling like a chore, keeping it entertaining, and I think keeping the plot of the second issue very simple to let all of those things sort of drip back through to the point now when we get to issue 3, all of these characters have been reinforced a little bit. So next time it'll be even easier to sort of remind us who they are because they're starting to become established in our minds. And I think that's really smart.
Me and Matt as well were banging the drum on Hawkman for like 2 years about how it was like low key, like our favorite ongoing book. Like that and obviously that has now unfortunately come to an end. This might be kind of already starting to take that spot, because we had 2 proper issues, and we had the issue as well, by the 25, where it was kind of the setup issue as well.
Yeah, it was a 2. Oh, it was a tie-in and 2 backup stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, but between that and then into these 2 proper issues, I feel like this kind of might be taking that place as not like one of the major books, but probably the one I'm going to look forward to most any week that it's out on.
Yeah, I'm finding myself being excited for it now, which is a very good sign.
Yeah, it's just such a strong book, and I've seen Fernando Blanco on a lot of books over the last few years. I think he obviously was doing Catwoman with George Jones for a bit, but before that, I think he did some Batwoman for a while. After the first arc, he's popped up on quite a few things, and I've always thought, his art's solid. But all of a sudden, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's doing anything different, if it's just the way this script suits his art, or maybe it's the colors bringing something out. I don't know, but whatever it is, all of a sudden, it's like the best I've ever personally enjoyed it. Suddenly it just feels more to my taste of what this book is. Yeah, I'm loving it.
What are you giving it?
It's a 9 from me.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 9 too. Pretty immaculate, to be honest, and exciting. Good pacing, soaking in atmosphere. There's very little to complain about.
I really hope the 2 months off for Future State doesn't kill the momentum of the book. I think we should be okay, because I believe Ram V is still doing the Catwoman Future State issues, so we might still be getting the that void will be filled still. So we should be okay, I hope.
Yeah. No, I'm digging Catwoman a lot. It is quickly becoming one of my most anticipated books every month. Rorschach issue 2, Tom King and Jorge Fornes on the art. And speaking of excitement, Catwoman I was excited for this week. I was also very excited for Rorschach because I loved issue 1. And I know you weren't quite on that same level, but that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't read this. I was getting through my list, and I was like, all right, I got Rorschach. I was like, and I felt I don't want to read it, so I didn't.
You're a disappointment in every sense of the word. This was another fantastic issue. This is it's early to call this. It is. But I'll be honest, I am not so sure when we get to the end of the 2 books which one I'm going to like more, this or Strange Adventures. I'm really not sure. This issue is about the detective going into the apartment where the old man, the artist, lived. The one who was dressed as Rorschach, who tried to assassinate the president. And as he's going in at the start of the book, again, coloring's very smart here because it's alternating between panels that are sort of red tinged, and that's like the potential sort of the first time that young woman who ended up working with the old man came to see him, and the detective coming in sort of a more natural toned colors. And the entire book kind of plays out by alternating between the detective and the present day, looking around, sort of sussing things out and talking to the guards or the doorman who works at the building, the neighbors who are involved, because he finds a card with a name on it and it leads him to a neighbor. And there's sort of pieces that are put in place that by the end there's like sort of something that's like becomes clear and is figured out as it goes on, where this woman that he has the name of, the detective goes to speak to her and she talks about how I went on a date with him once, back in like the late 70s or something like that, early 80s, and when we were both young, and it was kind of weird, it was kind of awkward, he was a cartoonist, not like the real man kind of idea. And he kind of awkwardly asked me in the elevator if, he could kiss me, when we got back upstairs. And I just told him no, and that was kind of it. And he was this quiet guy who never really talked. But she then got married, and it became this thing where the husband found out about this story and would kind of tease him about it, and seemingly in good fun, but we see like sort of time passing by. And it all kind of bubbles up because this husband died via a heart attack, maybe like a month or so ago. And then this other neighbor who has now swapped apartments with her because she needed a smaller place, talks about various things, and it becomes clear that there's more to this, and it all ends up dissolving into the idea that essentially this old guy had this resentment and had been basically holding a grudge for like 30 years, and kicks in the door as Rorschach with this young woman, and this is like right before they go and try and kill the president, and scares the shit out of him so much that he's that's sort of classic scene where he's like, I need my pills, and he dies and has a heart attack on the floor. And there's little things set up. There's a scene where the neighbor or the doorman talks about finding the old man like with a bloody nose and how it was kind of weird and he wouldn't tell him what happened. But then later on we find out that he got into a bit of a fist fight with his husband, and so the pieces start clicking into place in a different order. But there's some really fun stuff in there. A lot of it is about setting up the type of character that this old guy is. It kind of establishes some key things. It establishes that he's actually been talking kind of like Rorschach for a long time. Like there's pages set like in the 80s where he's already kind of talking in kind of a stilted manner, the kind of stilted Rorschach-esque way of thinking, and he's drawing new comics with Rorschach in it. In fact, there's a couple of pages in the middle of this book. It's like 2 pages that the detective finds, and it's a black and white couple of pages of his Rorschach comic fighting what's it called, the Unthinker, and it's very pulpy. It's just this idea of that he's kind of like getting out his frustrations, and the idea that Rorschach was about exposing the truth, and him overhearing this couple talk about, Reagan will take us to Vietnam and win the war and blah 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 blah, and like we'll do this and we'll do that. And he obviously disagrees with that. And it's this idea that the masses are too dumb and they have to be corrected. And the idea that his villain in his comic book is called the Unthinker. It's very kind of in your face, and but it's supposed to be, because it is this kind of like almost pulpy. Propaganda is not the right word, but in a way that it's definitely clearly trying to get across this agenda that he's pushing. And this idea that he idolizes Rorschach. He's kind of like he's basically an incel, and he's been an incel that's grown into old age and is still an incel, and that's what's kind of driving him to this. It's really interesting. It's actually this comic's got the apartment number on it. It leads them to the guy who turns out to have just swapped apartments with the woman. But the way this is told, the pacing of this is so fantastic. It flows so wonderfully. The way it sort of unravels more details, and everything in the comic is about building up who this guy is and giving us a sense of the character that he was and the person that he was that led him to the decisions that he made up to the assassination attempt. And the girl herself is still a mystery. In fact, the book ends with the detective kind of leaving and going to, like, okay, I'm going to like where she came from, like her hometown, to try and investigate her. So it wouldn't surprise me if issue 3 is kind of a similar character study of who this young woman was from like secondhand accounts and from whoever else there is. But wonderful stuff. Like I say, a lot of the flashback stuff's got this red tint to it, which really comes to light when he like not kicks in the door and like comes after this husband character, where it starts flashing like the the heart rate kind of panels in between as he's dying. There's a lot of red. It's all very sort of tilted. It's all anger. So it's like it's meant to represent the anger. Like the detective's world is a bit more normal in a kind of a cold way. Everything's kind of dull and almost sterile. But then you go into these flashbacks, and because it's all about him, it's tinged with a hint of anger. It's honestly, this stuff is masterful, and it's raining the whole time outside. It's got that mood. We hear some narration at the end, a conversation with a detective and his superior. They want to like announce that this was like a couple of nut jobs and it's not like anything else. And the detective's like, no, hold off, don't announce anything yet. Let me look into this. And the guy's like, I'll buy you time. But he's fighting the powers that be. He's fighting like what the people up above want. It's kind of a running theme in a lot of King's work. I get the impression that working for the CIA probably was a very tense job with a lot of superiors breathing down your neck.
I think he's just talking about DC editorial.
I mean, that's true. I mean, if he's making fun of Didio, he can just say it now. He's gone. He just,
It's true.
But no, I honestly, this is such a well-crafted comic. It really is, and it the art is absolutely immaculate. It's got that kind of. I've heard people. I think it was Matt actually on Twitter. Said the first issue had a very Brubaker Phillips kind of vibe, and yeah, it's got that political thriller, the mystery of who these two people are and why they did what they did, and I am wondering like exactly like how does this become 12 issues? I'm not sure how it goes to 12 issues. I think we have to maybe move on to other characters at some point. Not from away from the detective, but the idea that this book is not about one person named Rorschach. It's about the people that Rorschach might have inspired or the legacy that he's left behind. So I do wonder if we're going to be going on to other people that he's inspired in some different ways as things unfold. Assuming that this guy was completely working alone. Well, not alone, he's with the woman, but like the idea that they're just two kind of like this pair. Or is there something more to this? Is there something a bit more organized? It doesn't seem like it so far, but I genuinely wonder because we have 10 more issues, and I say that not in a worried way. I say that in I'm excited to see where this kind of keeps unraveling to. How does it expand out from here? As this is, it's such a focused and crafted issue about this old bastard, and it does come from all these second-hand accounts for the most part. You only hear him say something if there was other characters around to hear it, for the most part. But I mean, I guess it's kind of debatable that sometimes he's muttering things under his breath that maybe they wouldn't hear, or something like that. But other than that, that's it. So it's really going all in on the investigation. That's the idea that we're only learning things as a detective's learning it. And even the idea that the opening is kind of like going between like what probably happened with how she came here, the idea that this artist is famous, so people, every so often the doorman would let a fan in to go see him, which seems very unprofessional, to be honest. I think that doorman would get a...
Depends how big the bribe is.
Yeah, but she probably just walked in, and it goes panel from panel, sort of swapping between her going into the elevator and going up, and the detective going in and going up. And just that, again, just the idea of walking through the scene of the crime kind of idea. Like, there's a lot of that pacing, there's a lot of that just oozing throughout. It's full of atmosphere. Everything, and I said this in the first issue thing, but everything, the haircuts, the trench coat the detective's wearing, the shitty old looking wallpaper in the halls of this apartment building, it's all very specifically chosen, and it is wonderful. So I am giving this a straight 9 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic comic book, and it's becoming one of my most anticipated. It is different as well. It's a little bit different because I think Strange Adventures is really, really, really good. It is fantastic, but it definitely feels like the guy who did Mr. Miracle, right? It definitely feels like an extension of the same kind of style. This feels like it's kind of a different gear. Like, this is a different, talent he has, is this type of story. At least so far. Maybe he'll shut the bed as it goes on, but so far, I'm loving it. I am curious to see what Matt says about this when he eventually makes his diabolically wonderful return. Yes, diabolically wonderful. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, say whatever you want.
It's wonderful because it won't just be you anymore, and I can be happy here again. So no, 9 out of 10 for me. I like Rorschach. There's a lot of reasons to be skeptical about the existence of this book. There's a lot of reasons to think, I don't want a book that's to do with Watchmen. There's too many Watchmen things, and I completely get it. I do, but it's not just doing. Here's somehow Rorschach's back from the dead, and this is what's happening. It's just doing something different and a little creative. And remember, this is actually set post TV show. This is set in the continuity where the TV show exists, which is also pretty fascinating. So, it may not even be that relevant in the long run. It may just be a little Easter egg in the first issue, but as it is. That's what it
was a conscious choice, though, to do that setting.
It definitely was. So, yeah, maybe, if not the characters from the TV show, maybe there'll be something in the world that they want to use later on that'll be relevant. But that is that. So that'll take us on to the part of the show where we pick our favourite stuff of the week, panel/moment, cover art, and obviously top 5. So, Connor, what is your panel/moment of the week?
Mine is from Catwoman, and it's when they're in the chase and the heist. And it is the page where the kid's on the bike and the car's right behind them and the headlights are shining across. It's that top panel especially. where it's got the scree in the pink text, is just stood out to me as kind of went up a notch in that issue. So yeah, it was pretty great.
Yeah, I went with a panel from Rorschach. So there's a scene where the doorman helps him up. This is I was talking about how he finds him with like a bloody nose after this fight, and it seems to be when he's about to draw this Rorschach comic that the detective finds later. But there's a really little touch here, again very symbolic, where as he goes to start drawing this, as the doorman's walking out, some blood from his nose drips on the page. So there's literally blood on the page where he's about to draw his comic, which he's basically going to draw out of anger. This is him like letting his creative like anger flow. So it's a bit on the nose. There's blood on the page, but it works, especially since there's a sort of, like I say, red tint, or maybe red is a bit too strong of a word, but it's definitely a warm tint to all these scenes with the old man and the flashbacks. But the red blood on the white page really sticks out. So I think it's, and not even that. I mean, one could argue it's kind of like an ink blot in some ways. I mean, after all, an ink blot is just a splatter. So it's not.
Without having seen this, it sounds reminiscent of the ink on the smiley face pin. I don't think the blood. Sorry, because you just said ink.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's less of a drip though, more of a splat. Because the one in the smiley face is sort of dripping down, so it's sort of got a long, sort of oozing look to it. But I'm going with that. It's a subtle thing, and also I didn't want to pick something for Catwoman because you did. So, but that is my pick. All right, cover of the week we got.
There's quite a few good ones this week actually. I didn't look through all the metal ones because there's a lot. I had a quick glance, but I think for me it comes down to either the Catwoman variant, which is a Frizzen cover, or probably the Middleton cover for metal, which is the Wonder Woman one. Spoiled this way. There's two different Middleton covers to choose from.
Yes, Middleton one is pretty good. I'm just eyeing up things just now.
I do quite like the general Justice League cover from Sharp.
I like both Rorschach covers. I quite like. I mean, Mattina Batman's usually pretty gorgeous, typically.
Yeah.
So I'm having a hard time picking this week. I think I'm going to go with the regular Rorschach cover just because it's very simplistic. It's just the two sort of figures with the shadows and the silhouettes walking into like a sort of red skull, but it's kind of also like a Rorschach face in the way it's presented. I dig it. To go. I'm going with the minimalist one this week as opposed to the fancy art. So, best art of the week then.
I mean, for me, it comes down to either Catwoman or Death Metal. There's no way it's not one of those choices. And as much as I like Capullo and what he's doing, I think I am going to edge it to Catwoman.
For me, it's also a choice of two things, but Death Metal is not actually in the conversation for me. For me, it is Catwoman and Rorschach. It's
I thought it would be. I mean, Fornes is a very good artist. So
what's funny is that they're both doing kind of like not exactly the same tones, but they're both doing crime. It is kind of the funny thing. Is there's definitely some parallels to be drawn. And I think I'm going to give it to Rorschach. And I hate to just give Rorschach everything this week, but
alright, I'm giving Catwoman everything. So,
but it is it just is. It's wonderful. Everything about the art is basically immaculate. It is exactly perfect for everything it's doing, what it needs to do, and the atmosphere it's given me. So, there you go. All right, rank your books then. Go. Assuming you had rank 5 of them. top 5 books.
So do a top 5. That's what you say. Yeah?
Yes.
That would be Catwoman at number 1, and then Metal, and then what do I have after that? Justice League, then Aquaman, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going Rorschach at number 1, and then number 2, Catwoman, number 3, Death Metal, number 4, I'll say number 4, Aquaman, number 5, Justice League, but there you go. Pretty straightforward. And there you go. So I'll tell you what's coming next week then from DC Comics. So we have Detective Comics 1031, The Flash 766, putting us out of our misery with that 4-part fill-in arc. Action Comics 1027, can't wait. Although Carl needs to read this one. I just remembered that.
I do.
Wonderful.
I'm not promising to read Flash as well.
They promised, no one's forcing you to read Flash. Wonder Woman 767, Red Hood 51, New Era Red Hood starts with that. Justice League Dark issue 28, Batman Superman 14, Batman Beyond 49, John Constantine Hellblazer issue 12, Batman Whitney presents Harley Quinn issue 2, Dark Knight's Death Metal The Multiverse Who Laughs issue 1, so we're on one shot. There, Suicide Squad issue 11, which is the final issue of Taylor's Suicide Squad, which is a shame because I've been loving that book. Legion of Superheroes number 11. We got the other history of the DC Universe issue 1 next week. I did not realize that was about to hit.
Yeah, me either. Like, we've known this was coming for a while, but for some reason in my brain it was probably it's coming at the same time as all the Future State stuff. It'll be in that weird period.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to check that out and see what it's like.
Quite a busy week though.
It's
a handful of oversized books as well.
It's funny. I said I'll definitely read that next Flash issue because like I may as well finish the art now. But then I'm looking at this week and going,
yeah, I've got that, and I've got another Patreon book to do next week as well.
We'll see where the priorities go. But
are you saying you're not trying the new writer on Red Hood?
No.
But it's a whole new team.
Yeah. But that's what's coming next week. So look forward to all that. I will take this time to thank our Patreon producers for the month. So thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Sharp, Boardnow, Al Tribesman, Christopher Moy, I apologize, Brett Williams, and David Brown. They are all our $20 or above patrons on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. That is why they refer to it as producers. But you can, of course, support us for as little as $1 per month, and $1 per month would actually be more than we would make if you watched every ad on every video we put up on MailFuzz TV on YouTube every month. So $1 is a ton, don't think it isn't. But obviously at the $5 tier you get early access to the episodes and whatnot, so go and have a look and see if you're interested. You can of course support us in other ways as well. Hitting the like button is super important on YouTube, as is subscribing, commenting, letting us know what you think, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at DC Comics Podcast for updates and questions when we need questions and stuff like that. But otherwise, that's pretty much us. So here endeth episode 228. That's getting close to 250. That's going to be a March, April.
Yeah, it'll be
thing.
Sometime next year,
Yeah. Well, obviously because a year's 52 weeks, the 50 episode anniversaries keep getting slightly earlier. It goes down by 2 weeks every year. So
yeah,
we started at the end of May, so I think we're like mid-April now, maybe a start of April when we get to these 50 anniversaries.
Do we know what? This is a random thing to ask at this point of the show because it's just popped in my head. Do we know what the publishing's like from DC around Christmas this year? If we got a week off to do our annual, or have we got to fit in an extra episode that week?
I don't think we've got a week off this year. I think.
God damn it!
I think it worked out that way because of weird Christmas lay the last couple of years, but this year they're not doing that. So
bastards.
I know. So our annual best of the year is going to have to be an extra recording somewhere, but that's okay. Good news for you guys, I suppose. You get an extra episode as a Christmas treat. Well, more of a New Year's treat by the time we get.
Other day.
But in spirit, Christmas treat. But yeah, there you go. So that's episode 228. So thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, guys. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.